An immense blast tore through the sea. The escort vessel Shahid Soleimani was not simply struck. It was torn apart from below the surface. 19 seconds. That was all it took for the $120 million ship to disappear into the black depths of the seafloor. No radar contact, no warning, no visible attacker. Only the violent groan of twisting steel, followed by a chilling silence settling back over the waves. Just 2 miles away, the Virginia-class submarine responsible for the strike moved like a shadow through the water, silent and precise. This was not meant as a signal, it was a decisive takedown. In the next 12 minutes, the IRGC Navy would effectively cease to exist as a fighting force. 40 miles to the east, the IRNS Shahid Bagheri, Iran's first naval drone carrier, was preparing to launch a swarm. Its deck was alive with movement, packed with more than 50 Shahid 136 drones, their compact engines filling the air with a sharp mechanical whine. Iranian commanders believed they were in control. They saw their unconventional carrier, a converted merchant ship transformed into a mobile stronghold, as a way to put the Strait of Hormuz under constant pressure. Far above, a KH-11 reconnaissance satellite fixed its infrared sensors on the heat signature rising from the Bagheri's engines. In less than a second, the data was processed and transmitted to an E-2D Hawkeye orbiting 200 miles away. The Hawkeye operator did not need to say a word. One tap on a glass display was enough, and the entire strike sequence moved forward automatically. At 2:18, two F-35C Lightning IIs launched from the USS Abraham Lincoln, released 4 AGM-158 CLRASMs. These were not ordinary missiles. They were $3 million stealth weapons built for one purpose only: to hit hard and finish the job. The LRASMs dropped to just 15 feet above the water, using the sea spray as cover and staying below the carrier's radar horizon. They did not travel in a simple straight path. Using onboard coordination systems, they adjusted together, timing their approach like a hunting pack closing in. The first missile tore through the Bagheri's hangar door at 650 miles per hour. The sheer force of the impact turned the ship's interior into a storm of metal fragments. A fraction of a second later, the second and third missiles followed through the same opening. Then the Bagheri became an inferno. 30,000 gallons of high-octane drone fuel and 2 tons of explosives stored in the drone magazines ignited at once. The heat plume was so intense that even weather satellites above the equator detected a flash over the Indian Ocean. The ship did not simply go down, it came apart. The Shahed drones lined up on deck, meant to project fear, were reduced to countless fragments of burning wreckage falling into the sea. In just 4 minutes, Iran's vision of naval drone supremacy was wiped away. The IRGC tried to answer from the mainland. Along the harsh, sun-scorched coastline near Jask, 6 mobile ballistic missile launchers, known as the Archers, rolled out from reinforced limestone tunnels. Their crews moved at full speed, preparing Fatah's 110 missiles for launch against the American carrier strike group. They had trained to fire and vanish in less than 5 minutes. They were 5 minutes too late. The instant the hangar doors opened, the U.S. network detected the shift in the terrain. At that moment, the system stopped being a shield and became a hunter. The coordinates were transmitted immediately to a HIMARS battery positioned on a small, unremarkable island 300 miles away. The U.S. Army did not respond with conventional rockets. It used the PRSM, the Precision Strike Missile. Unlike a traditional rocket, the PRSM does not simply arc across the sky. It descends toward Earth at more than 3,850 miles per hour, roughly Mach 5. At that velocity, the air around it becomes a white-hot envelope of ionized gas. It moves so quickly that Iran's S-300 air defense systems never had time to react. Their radar software, built for older generations of threats, could not properly track a target covering a mile every second. The first PRSM slammed into the lead launcher with the impact of a falling meteor. It did not need an enormous warhead. The raw kinetic force of a 2,500-pound object traveling at 3,850 miles per hour was enough to erase a 20-ton truck and toss nearby armored vehicles aside like they weighed nothing. The explosions from the Iranian missiles only fed the blaze, turning the launch site into a shattered field of fire and craters. 6 launchers emerged. 6 minutes later, all that remained was scorched ground. No American pilots entered danger. No special operations teams touched the ground. It was simply a strike delivered from extreme range, fast and exact. Panic began to spread through the IRGC regional headquarters. Their most important assets were being eliminated one after another, with almost no chance to respond. In a final attempt to turn the tide, they launched their last reserve, a saturation wave of 2,000 low-cost drones and 300 cruise missiles. It was a $60 million storm of unmanned weapons, a dense wave of metal meant to overwhelm the Aegis destroyers through sheer numbers. The Iranians expected a direct showdown. Instead, they ran straight into a barrier of electronic disruption. High above, at 30,000 feet, an EA-18G Growler switched on its jamming pods. This was not random interference, it was a precise electronic strike. The aircraft isolated the exact frequencies used by the Iranian drones for GPS guidance and command links, then overwhelmed them with false signals and corrupted data. On Iranian control screens, the drones began behaving unpredictably. Some drifted into wide, useless circles. Others turned back toward the Iranian coastline. A number of them lost function entirely and dropped into the sea like dead weight. That is the power of an electronic veil. You cannot engage what you cannot properly track, and you cannot succeed when your own weapons lose their sense of direction. For the drones that slipped through the jamming, the USS Leyte Gulf was ready. The ship did not spend $2 million missiles on drones worth a fraction of that. That would have made no sense. Instead, it relied on the Mark 100 10-57mm gun and the CRAM defense system. The Mark 110 can fire 220 rounds per minute, and each round is a programmable smart shell designed to burst into a cloud of tungsten pellets directly in the drone's path. In effect, it turned the airspace around the ship into a controlled storm of metal. Inside the Combat Information Center, everything remained calm and methodical. The tactical action officer watched as the Aegis system automatically sorted, tracked, and engaged targets in sequence. 14 drones down, 22 down, 50 down. What had been launched as a swarm no longer looked like a serious threat. It looked like a final sweep. Every drone that splashed into the water proved the same point. Numbers alone cannot overcome a better network. To understand why those 12 minutes were so one-sided, you have to look beyond the explosions and focus on the kill chain itself. In modern warfare, the platform that fires the weapon is often the least important piece. What mattered here was an interconnected combat architecture, a fully integrated system of systems unlike anything fielded elsewhere in the same way. It started 500 miles above the Earth with the KH-11 satellite. This was not just an orbiting camera, it was a collector of signals, scanning the electromagnetic spectrum for the distinct signatures of Iranian radar and communications. When it identified a target, it did more than capture an image. It produced coordinates accurate enough for direct engagement. That information was encrypted, sent to a ground station in the United States, and then relayed back to the E-2D Hawkeye. The Hawkeye served as the battlefield coordinator, combining the satellite's top-down perspective with its own radar picture and sonar input from the Virginia-class submarine. The result was a single shared tactical view. Through cooperative engagement capability, every ship and aircraft in the area saw the same battlefield in real time. That is why the F-35s could remain 100 miles away with their own radars switched off. They were not operating blind. They were seeing through the satellite, the Hawkeye, and the submarine all at once. When the pilot pressed the trigger, he was not simply releasing a missile. He was setting an entire global network in motion. That level of coordination is what gives American military power its edge. It clears the battlefield for one side while turning it into confusion for the other. While Iranian forces were still trying to understand where the first strike had come from, the network had already prepared the answer for the next 10. At its harshest level, war is also a question of cost and effect. Iran spent 2 decades and enormous resources building an asymmetric naval force designed to wear down its opponents through constant pressure and repeated smaller attacks. In just 12 minutes of fully integrated combat, that long-term investment was effectively wiped out. The U.S. Navy did not lose a single sailor. Not one aircraft was lost. Roughly $30 million in munitions disabled around $600 million in Iranian military assets. But the real cost cannot be measured only in money. The operation was called Epic Fury for a reason. It was a direct and deliberate response to the loss of 4 American service members in a drone attack weeks earlier. Their names are remembered: Captain Cody Cork, age 35, Sergeant First Class Nicole A. Moore, age 39, Sergeant First Class Noah Tashins, age 42, and Sergeant Declan Cody, just 20 years old. Declan had not even reached his 21st birthday. He was a young man from Des Moines with his future ahead of him, and that future was taken away by a low-cost drone built in a factory in Isfahan. The 12 minutes the world had just seen were meant as a message to those responsible for sending that drone. It was a signal that the United States was no longer focused on limited symbolic replies or measured exchanges. The age of restrained responses had ended. What followed was a display of overwhelming force. The systems involved, the Mark 48 torpedoes, the LRASMs, the PRSMs, were not just battlefield weapons. They were also tools of strategy. They showed that on the modern battlefield, the speed of information matters as much as firepower itself. The Iranian leadership believed low-cost technology could be enough to challenge a superpower. What they overlooked was a simple reality. The superpower they were confronting helped create the technological age they were trying to exploit. As the smoke finally cleared over the North Indian Ocean, the strategic picture of the region had shifted in a way that could not be ignored. The IRGC Navy, once presented as a symbol of strength, was reduced to little more than a coastal patrol force. Its drone carrier lay destroyed and silent. Its most capable corvette was gone. Its land-based missile systems had been reduced to fragments of twisted metal. The outcome was absolute. Trade through the Strait of Hormuz continued uninterrupted. Global shipping lanes remained open. The markets responded not with panic, but with stability. Oil prices did not surge. They leveled out. The message was clear. The system of maritime security in the region had not collapsed. For many observers, the implication was larger than a single engagement. It was about deterrence and control of critical sea routes. The U.S. Navy was not only defending vessels, it was maintaining the operational stability of one of the world's most important trade corridors. For planners in Washington and sailors in the Indian Ocean, the operation was not just about a tactical success. It was a demonstration of how deeply integrated modern military systems have become. It showed how a satellite launched from California can share data with a submarine built in Virginia, which in turn coordinates with an aircraft flown by a pilot from Texas, closing the loop with precision and speed that leaves almost no room for delay or uncertainty. From this perspective, the engagement was less about individual weapons and more about the structure behind them, a fully connected system designed to see, decide, and act faster than anything on the opposing side. The Iranian leadership was left facing a difficult reality. Their most advanced capabilities were being detected, tracked, and neutralized almost as soon as they were used. Every launch revealed position. Every movement carried risk of exposure. In modern conflict, the advantage does not belong to the side with the loudest message or the most dramatic display. It belongs to the side that can consistently see first, decide first, and act first, within a system that never stops connecting the pieces. It comes down to speed of information, speed of decision-making, and speed of execution. When the data flow is clean and uninterrupted, the advantage becomes overwhelming. The core lesson for any potential adversary is straightforward. Engaging a force that has shaped the rules of networked warfare means confronting an entire interconnected system rather than a single platform. In that environment, the response is not isolated. It is coordinated, layered, and immediate. In this case, the timeline was compressed to minutes. Within that short window, an entire naval concept was rendered ineffective, replaced by a faster and more integrated operational model. Modern conflict in this form is no longer loud or gradual. It is rapid, precise, and system-driven. Yet beneath the technology, the decisive factor remains human. Behind every feed, every sensor, and every command link are trained professionals operating complex systems under extreme pressure. The effectiveness of the network depends not only on hardware, but on discipline, coordination, and experience. The machinery enables the outcome, but it is the people who make it work.